going to start with a topic that is near and dear and something that I definitely think we don't pay enough attention to. We have improved in recent years, paying attention and being cognizant of the issues with PTSD that pertain to our veterans, to our military personnel once they come back. And we still have a lot of work to do to get from here to there. But at least there is an awareness and a level of attention that didn't used to be there. However, I think that by and large, we're probably overlooking what goes on close to home. And this really being evidenced in new research from the University of Phoenix, where a new study they produced showed that 85% of first responders across the country have experienced PTSD or depression related to stress and issues on the job. And here to share with us more information, a specialist on PTSD, Shannon Walker. Shannon, thank you for joining us this morning. 85%. This is an alarming number.
It absolutely is. Thank you for having me on your show. You know, not only do we provide service dogs to combat veterans that have PTSD here at Northwest Battle Buddies, but as a dog trainer, I also have the privilege of working with 4 different police departments. And I know when we're talking about first responders, we're talking about also firemen and EMT, but the 4 different police departments helping them with their canines, you know, being able to work with them and seeing the demeanor that they carry themselves with every day. You know, it's like whether they're serving in the military or they're serving as that first line of defense at home to protect us. You know, you're dealing with men and women that have so much courage and so much selflessness that it's just what they do in their job. I mean, it's just part of their job day to day, and they don't make it a big deal. But it is such a huge deal for any of us, especially that need them in that moment. But they are experiencing trauma, and that study out of the University of Phoenix, you know, says that 84% of first responders have experienced traumatic events. So therefore, it is no surprise that there are also studies released are stating that 85% nationwide experience symptoms of depression and PTSD. It's something that we absolutely have to understand and help, making sure they know they're appreciated, but also finding ways to support them, because this is a people who are not going to go ask for help. You know, these type of men and women, whether it's military or first responders, they're not going to go necessarily ask for help. And so we just have to know as a society that there is a price that they are paying for the security that we feel and that they provide.
I mean, you take a look at this, and the folks included in the study were police, firefighters, and paramedics. And we were taking a look at nearly 9 out of 10 that have experienced PTSD or stress on the job. It's not like the job's going to get any less stressful from here. So I see this, and my first question, and perhaps you have some insight into what we might be able to do a better job of. There's nothing that is going to stop the criminal element as it pertains to police. Firefighters, I mean, we wish we didn't have fires, but we're going to. And obviously medical emergencies. So what is it that we might be able to do from a career standpoint to try to take the edge off of this stress that is inherent in the jobs that these individuals do?
Well, you know what? I know for me personally and what we do here at Northwest Battle Buddies in order to give back and make sure that they feel appreciated. I mean, we can't, like you said, we can't take the stress off their job, and we can't stop the results of what's happening that is bringing this trauma that they're having to experience. But the fact is that, you know, here at Northwest Battle Buddies, we provide service dogs. So we take our gifts and our talents, and we find a way to give back into the community. You know, we're a nonprofit. But for our first responders, ways to support them, especially, you know, if there's stuff in the media, not just the stories that we hear about a tragedy from a first responder, a firefighter who's lost in a fire, or an EMT crash, or if it's a policeman that, you know, has been shot down, or whatever they face. Not just pouring out our love and our support at those times, but on a daily basis of appreciation, finding ways in the community to show them that they are appreciated, because financially and the sacrifice, no matter what they were ever paid, and that's not even the issue, but no matter what they face, nothing that we can give back will repay what they give to us. So I think community events, our own gifts and talents, stepping out of our comfort zone, saying thank you in a significant way where we can in the community in all of these areas.
Well, it's a great message, and I certainly appreciate your work, your effort, and your willingness to expand upon this because this was alarming. It's rare that something statistically will completely catch me off guard. I'm kind of a dork about studies and research that way, but this one did. When you're talking about a number so large and an issue that is so pervasive within these very important professions, so. Thank you very much, Shannon Walker. And again, what's the website that folks can go to help your cause?
NorthwestBattleBuddies.org, and they can also find us on Facebook. We are completely privately funded, and we provide these service dogs, highly trained service dogs, 100% free of charge to our American heroes.
That's great. Thank you very much, Shannon Walker. We do appreciate the time. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
You bet.
New study, 85% of first responders experience PTSD and depression. And there's a growing body of evidence that shows it's not a single event for first responders. It's the buildup of exposure to stress and tragedy over a period of time. I know we have at least one of the 15 that I can think of that emails us on a semi-regular basis and has talked about this exact thing. Because at one point or another, he was a first responder, firefighter. To talk a little bit about it, specialist on PTSD, Shannon Walker, rejoins us on the wake-up call this morning. Shannon, thanks for being with us. I know that you work a lot with folks here in the Northwest because you are...
Hello?
Hi, can you hear us? Hello?
Hi, this is Shannon. I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. You work here in the Northwest with dealing with folks who have PTSD. Of the folks that you deal with, I mean, do you see a lot of, say, police, fire, EMTs, and the like in your line of work?
Absolutely, I do. Actually, as well as Northwest Battle Buddies, where we provide service dogs to combat veterans. But as a professional dog trainer, I actually have the privilege of working with 4 police departments with their canines. And so not only that, but I also work with a lot of firefighters with their own personal dogs as far as, them coming in and getting to know them and talking about their jobs.
So this probably doesn't surprise you at all.
No, it doesn't at all. Trauma is trauma, whether it's our military veterans or our first, line of defense here at home. When people experience trauma, when they're surprised, when they are forced into a situation, with these men and women, they don't run away from the tragedy; they run to it, and they are affected by it. And so often, when we see somebody affected by a trauma, we think that it would be physical, or that they might, we'd see a physical ailment or dismemberment. But this affects them in the brain, and a brain injury or traumatic brain injury, and the symptoms of PTSD, they have to go home and if you know a first responder or a military person, they just put on that front like everything is okay, and they're so strong and they have that demeanor, but they are affected. And so often the symptoms of PTSD, in their mind, especially at night while they're sleeping, it can be very substantial and affect them on a daily basis, but they're never going to let you know that unless you get to know them, because they have so much courage and they are so selfless in everything that they do every day for us.
The 85% number, they say that 85%. Do you think that number is high? Do you think that number is in the ballpark? I mean, the number itself, that's a huge percentage.
It is. I know that the University of Phoenix, says that 80% of our first responders have experienced a traumatic event. And so it's no surprise that it also says that 85% of our first responders are experiencing symptoms of depression and PTSD. And, I think that any time that they've been in the profession for any length of time, trauma is trauma, and they're going to experience these effects. And I can't imagine every police officer that I've worked with personally, and I only say police officers because of my line of work, but the fact is they have all experienced trauma, and they are very, very good at guarding themselves, and every once in a while they'll let you see into that a little bit. But they never complain. They never would choose anything different. It is what they do because it's a part of them, because they just have that attitude of service and courage.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many people are actually, and we'll take firefighters as an example. You know, I look at firefighters, EMTs is probably seeing, and police to some extent, maybe more so like OSP, where they're out there on the highways every day and see these really horrific wrecks. But one would have to imagine that there's probably a good majority of these people that are going to work and are undiagnosed.
Absolutely. 35% have received a diagnosis of PTSD. And one of the things that also is commented about is the fact that, children, of course, can be the most effective, especially if firefighters and EMTs and police officers, if, they have small children at home. It's hard not to carry that back home because it's hard not to relate in the trauma to the people that you're serving as people that you would know and attach those same feelings to. And so, going home, being with their families, they have to compartmentalize and try to keep things separate to keep their family protected from what they are experiencing on a daily basis.
So what you're saying with what they're doing is then it's an empathetic thing. You go out on a car crash, and a child is potentially a fatality. It's hard if you have a kid not to internalize that. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, but I think as people, we do that. When we see trauma or we see a really sad situation or we're forced into something, whether it's our line of work or something that we see on the news, it's hard for us not to, at least for me personally, not to relate to how I would feel if that was my own that this was happening to. I'm a single mom of twin boys that are 22, and they serve in the Army and Marines. And so when I see a service member, as an example, that has been traumatized or given their life or is sacrificed in some way or been injured, as a mom, it's hard for me not to think about my own children who are in that line of work serving. And so I think that as a human, we have that empathy, but especially when you're put into those kind of situations that are so intense and so volatile and so full of emotion and trauma, you don't walk away the same. You can't unsee what you see.
Yeah. Shannon, thanks for joining us on the Wake Up Call this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right. Shannon Walker, Northwest Battle Buddies